Lesson 15. I can talk about work and study. Model dialogues.
1. What does your father do for a living?
He works for an IT company. He's head of the software division.
Really? No wonder you know so much about computers. 2. How was your math test today?
It was pretty hard, but I think I did fairly well this time.
That's good to hear.
3. Hello, my name's Jay Taylor, and I'm calling about the Help Wanted ad on your website. Would it be possible to make an appointment for an interview?
Sure, but you'll need to submit your resume first.
I see. Can I do that by email, or do you need a hard copy?
Other useful expressions. At the office. Please contact our personnel department on 299-3111. Please contact our personnel department at 299-3111. Who is in charge of this project?
Mr. Chang. He was promoted to managing director last month.
Appointments.
When would be convenient for you?
I'm available anytime after 2 o'clock on weekdays. Anytime after 2 o'clock on weekdays would be fine.
Lesson 16. I can talk about health and illness. Model dialogues.
1. What do you do to keep fit?
Well, I do a lot of exercise. I'm on the school's volleyball team, and we have 3 practice sessions a week. What about you?
I go swimming once a week at the community center. 2. My doctor told me that I'm overweight. How do you stay in such good shape?
It's not that hard. I just eat a balanced diet and take regular exercise. If you want to lose weight, the first thing I recommend is walking every morning and avoiding junk food.
3. Bless you. Do you have hay fever?
No, I don't. The reason I'm sneezing a lot is that I've got a cold. I think I might have a temperature too.
Too bad. You should make sure you get plenty of rest for a few days, and you'll soon be better. Other useful expressions. Illnesses. I have a bad toothache.
That's too bad. You should go and see the dentist.
I have a bad headache.
That's too bad. You should go and see the doctor.
I have a bad stomach ache.
That's too bad. You should go and see the doctor.
My uncle is in hospital. He's going to have an operation on his heart. Health conditions. Ouch!
What's wrong?
I've burned my finger. It really hurts. I'm suffering from a hangover. I drank too much last night.
Lesson 17. I can talk about travel plans. Model dialogues.
1. What are your plans for this summer vacation?
I'm planning to go surfing in Australia. 2. I hear you're going to Nara.
That's right. I'm visiting some old temples and shrines there.
Cool. How long will you be there?
Only 2 days.
3. How was your winter vacation?
Great! I went to Hokkaido. I spent several days skiing and snowboarding there.
Wow! I've never been to Hokkaido, but I'd love to go there someday.
Other useful expressions. Travel. We are going on a school trip to Kyoto this autumn. We are going on a school excursion to Kyoto this autumn. Italy is famous for its over 40 World Heritage Sites. How long does it take to fly from Narita to Singapore?
It takes about 7 hours.
At the airport. May I see your passport, please? What is the purpose of your visit?
Just for sightseeing. Just sightseeing.
At the hotel. I'd like to check in, please. I'd like to check out, please. Can I pay by credit card? Can I pay in cash? Can you wake me up at 6, please? Will you wake me up at 6, please?
Lesson 18. I can talk about natural disasters and the environment. Model dialogues.
1. Did you hear about the typhoon that hit Taiwan last week?
Yes, I read about it online. It was the most powerful typhoon to hit the country in decades, and it caused a lot of damage.
And deaths. More than 100 people were killed and many more were injured.
2. What do you do to reduce waste?
I don't use plastic bags anymore.
Well, that's a good start. We should all do our best to create a sustainable society. And the easiest way is to reduce waste by reusing and recycling products. 3. I've just read a really depressing article about extinction. Plant and animal species are dying out all over the world.
In Japan, too. I heard just the other day that a fish called medaka is becoming endangered.
Fish in general are threatened by overfishing.
Other useful expressions. Global warming. The Earth's temperature is rising and polar ice is melting. What can we do to slow global warming? Environmental issues. When oceans become polluted, it affects not only marine life, but also has indirect effects on human beings.
Lesson 19. I can talk about language and culture. Model dialogues. 1. How's your French, Dan? I know it's one of Canada's official languages.
Well, I learned it as a second language in school, but I'm not at all fluent.
2. How do you say itadakimasu in English?
There's no exact English equivalent for it, although traditionally people would say a prayer before starting to eat.
I see. It seems there are quite a few expressions that can't be translated directly from one language to another.
3. I often hear Australia described as a multicultural nation. It must be very different from Japan.
Yes, it is. We certainly continue to accept large numbers of immigrants from around the world. Other useful expressions. The Japanese language. Before the introduction of kanji characters from China, the Japanese language had no writing system. Quite a few Japanese words like manga and anime are now familiar to speakers of English. Quite a few Japanese words like manga and anime are now popular among speakers of English. Japanese culture. Japanese culture has been strongly influenced by Chinese culture. Buddhism, which was introduced to Japan in the 6th century, has had a tremendous influence on Japanese art and architecture.
Lesson 20. I can talk about the media and entertainment. Model dialogues.
1. I think the internet is really useful for getting the latest information.
Yes, it is. but I usually rely on newspapers and television for the daily news.
Really? I get most of my news online, but my parents subscribe to a newspaper.
2. Have you looked at Mr. Brown's recommended reading list?
Yes, I have, but I don't think I'll have time to read everything on it.
Neither do I. Maybe we should start with the ones marked with stars. They're probably worth reading. 3. Have you seen the last Harry Potter movie?
No, because I'm sure I'd find it boring. I prefer more realistic movies.
Really? I thought it was excellent. In fact, I think it's the best movie I've ever seen.
Other useful expressions. TV and movies. English news programs such as BBC World News and ABC News are broadcast 24 hours a day via satellite. Invictus is a 2009 film directed by Clint Eastwood and starring Morgan Freeman as Nelson Mandela. Books. The 7 Harry Potter novels are undoubtedly the most popular series of children's books ever written. Originally published in German in 1979, the never-ending story has been translated into more than 40 languages.
Lesson 6. The Solar System's Biggest Junkyard. On a clear night, you can look at the stars in the sky. Even though you cannot see it, you are also looking at the largest junkyard in the solar system. Placed higher than the highest clouds, but much closer than the moon, the junkyard stretches to 20,000 miles overhead. There are tens of millions of pieces of junk there. Some are rocks and dust from passing comets, but most are man-made and called orbital debris. Astronauts have lost a camera, tools, and a glove in space. Most of the junk, however, comes from large satellites and rockets that fell apart after they stopped working. Together, all the space junk would weigh about 11 million pounds on the Earth, or more than 3,000 cars. The largest piece is a part of a rocket about the size of a family car. The smallest piece is smaller than your fingernail. Most pieces fly through space at more than 20 times the speed that sound travels on the Earth. A small stone in orbit around the Earth can have as much energy as a bowling ball going 500 miles per hour or a car going 30 miles per hour. The junkyard is a serious problem for the future of space travel. You've got thousands of satellites in orbit all the time. Without tracking debris, you cannot avoid collisions. In 1983, a small crack appeared in one window of the Space Shuttle Challenger while it was in space. That was caused by a small orbiting piece of paint. If the shuttle had been struck by a larger piece of junk, the astronauts might have been in danger. When the Space Shuttle Endeavour returned to the Earth, its body had small holes from space garbage. 2 satellites also had to change direction to avoid collisions with big pieces of junk. The U.S. Space Surveillance Network and NASA work together to keep track of the largest pieces of space junk. When the shuttle is in orbit, for example, their attention is on nearby junk that might get in the way. If there is even a small chance of a collision, then the shuttle speeds up while changing direction. There are about 17,000 pieces of garbage larger than 4 inches. The Space Surveillance Network keeps a list of all these pieces with dozens of telescopes and antennas on the Earth and in space to watch them. Because all the pieces are in motion all the time, keeping track of them is difficult. The scientists have to know 2 things: where the garbage is now and where it is going to be in the future. The prediction of direction is not simple because the junk can move north or south, east or west, and up or down. They're always looking about 4 days into the future, tracking objects which might come close. Scientists cannot keep track of them all, though. Instead of watching each piece one by one, scientists watch one area of sky and count the number of pieces that pass overhead. With that small measurement, they can use a computer program to get a good idea of what the whole sky looks like. Like other environmental problems, space junk will get worse without careful attention. In the future, pieces of junk will probably hit each other, making even more trash. The large pieces of junk, however, cannot be brought back to the Earth because the technology is too expensive. Instead, we should try to stop adding new garbage. For example, engineers are changing the way they build spacecraft to minimize debris. A solution will require international cooperation. Guidelines for how to reduce the risk of space junk have already been approved. Countries came together because the environment was getting worse every year. If countries work together to control the amount of trash we send into space, we can keep the problem under control.
Lesson 7. IPS cells. If you have badly burned or injured your skin, the doctor may have to take a section of the good skin from your back and sew it onto the injured area. Thanks to a growing medical technology called tissue engineering, however, it may no longer be necessary for you to give up any skin in the near future. Today, an incredible number of research studies have been carried out all over the world in this field. Scientists are working very hard and competing with one another to come up with faster and safer ways to create tissues such as skin from the patient's own body cells. So far, one of the leading scientists in this area is Dr. Yamanaka Shinya of Kyoto University. He was first a medical doctor treating back injuries, broken limbs, damaged joints, and such. One day, he saw a woman with a serious disease in her joints. He was so shocked when he saw her infected joints, swollen and out of shape, that he decided to become a scientist. He went into basic study in order to find good ways to treat those patients suffering from serious diseases and injuries. One way to create tissue is to use egg cells, which have the ability to grow into any body part, such as hair or muscle. This method, however, has produced a lot of debate. Many think it is wrong to treat live eggs as objects and then kill them, although the purpose is to treat patients. In addition, people fear that this method can lead to human cloning. For years, Dr. Yamanaka and his research team worked hard to find a different way to create tissue. Then, in 2007, they finally succeeded in creating heart muscle tissue from skin cells taken from a person's face. They first added 4 kinds of genes to the skin cells to put them back into their initial state, a state similar to egg cells. Then, they let those cells grow into heart muscle tissue. The 4 genes they found are now called Yamanaka factors, and the initialized cells that can grow into any of the 200 cell types are called iPS cells. These iPS cells could be used for treating various illnesses and injuries by transplanting them into body parts that are damaged or not in good condition. For example, if your heart were not working properly due to damaged heart muscles, doctors could first collect some of your body cells by cutting out a very small section of your skin. Then, they would change them into iPS cells and let them grow into muscle cells. Last, they would transplant them into your heart. Dr. Yamanaka's findings heated up the competition in tissue engineering. In fact, when he succeeded in creating iPS cells using mice in 2006, many foreign researchers followed his method and tried to overtake him. For example, on the same day that Dr. Yamanaka published his study on human iPS cells in the journal Cell, an American researcher named Dr. James Thompson published a similar paper in Science. Dr. Yamanaka managed to keep the lead by publishing it online. Had it been one day later, the honor would have gone to Dr. Thompson. Other research teams are also close behind Dr. Yamanaka. For example, in 2011, Dr. Dezawa's research team at Tohoku University found that only a certain kind of body cell can become iPS cells. Also, in the same year, Dr. Okano at Keio University found a quicker way to change cells into different types. Although some researchers say that there is a possibility that iPS cells will grow into cancer cells, Dr. Okano's method might avoid it. Dr. Yamanaka says this kind of competition is a good thing for the patients who are waiting for the practical use of the technology. Saving the patients has always been the top priority on his list.